Welcome back, everybody. We're here on the channel to show you guys a textured crop on straight Asian hair. So I'm going to start this one by showing you guys how I like to do the back, especially for straight Asian hair. If you get to a short length, keep in mind that this hair is just going to stick up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a technique called pivoting around the crown area, where I'm actually just going to go with the grain of the hair, and I'm going to take it at different angles for every section. As you can see here, mapping out for you the direction of the hair growth pattern, and what that's going to do is give you a clear indication on which way I'm going to be drawing my section lines. Now keep in mind that this differs from client to client, so make sure that you are taking the time to actually look at how that hair growth is from the crown, okay? And as you notice here, I'm choosing to use a scissor length, which is just long enough. I'm pulling out away from the scalp about 2 inches, just so that, if the hair lays down with water, then it can definitely lay down with a blow dry and style. As I get to the outsides of this section here, notice how I am lifting off of the scalp towards the middle, creating my horizontal section and cutting with my hands not mounted to the scalp. And as I get to the outside, I want to make sure that I mount my fingers down or my knuckles down, depending on what side of the head I'm working on. Now attacking the sides to continue where I've left my guides from the pivoting section, I want to create a section above the parietal ridge, about 1 inch above. And again, I'm going with the grain in this case with this client, his hair starts to go diagonal forward. So since his hair likes to go diagonal forward, I'm actually going to go with that and draw my sections diagonally forward, all the way from behind the ear right up until the front area, the fringe, or if you want to call it the hairline. I'm going to make sure that I don't affect the fringe, because if you don't know about the textured crop, for this one specifically, we're giving it a blunt fringe. So I don't want to affect that blunt fringe until I actually want to make it straight, which I'm not going to do until later. So I'm going to continue to do this on the other side. And on this side, notice now my knuckles are actually mounted to the scalp and my fingers are pivoting away from the scalp, creating a square shape. But I am going with the grain. On this side, again, it is going diagonal forward. So I wanted to show you guys at the apex here, I actually just decided to cut this square horizontally. And the reason why I made sure that I did it at the apex is so that I don't affect the hair that I cut when I was pivoting around the crown area. Going into the rest of the top, I want to show you guys that I'm actually going to be cutting this vertically round, meaning that with the head shape, as it starts to, from the apex, round down towards the fringe, I'm actually going to be pulling the hair out towards the shape of the head. So I'm going to be taking vertical sections, making sure that I pull out not just at a 90-degree angle, but 90 degrees from the shape of the scalp, which is rounding. As you guys can see here, my fingers are slightly angled forward, indicating that the front part of the head is rounding. So I'm going to take even sections, about the width of a comb, and I'm going to continue this until I complete cutting the top evenly. And then you'll start to see here in a couple of seconds that I'm actually going to do a quick cross check. Now a cross check just simply means that if I cut this section vertically, I'm going to check it by doing the opposite. So I'm going to check it by going horizontally, which you can see right now I did by separating the fringe and making a section line down the middle just to separate, so I don't grab too much hair. And I'm just going to be cross-checking from back to front, making sure I don't cut off too much hair, just making sure that I straighten it out and keeping that square shape horizontally. Remember that vertically it is round. Notice how I didn't go too far into the fringe either, guys. We still want to keep that strong hairline so that we can do what we want to it later, customization work. I grabbed my thinning shears. This is a 15% thinning shear, meaning it's not going to cut off too much hair. I'm going to go in with 45-degree angles left and right, creating a X pattern. And this is one of my favorite techniques for texturizing hair. Now you can do this technique dry or you can do it wet. If you do it wet, you're gonna be cutting off more hair. So for me, I wanted to give a little bit more choppy texture in there, keeping in mind that his hair is very straight. I wanted to give the effect of it having this texture. Now I'm gonna be working on customizing the fringe. And you guys notice here, the angle that I have my comb at is not the angle you wanna be cutting it at. You wanna be cutting it at a 90-degree angle. So as I go into actually taking off about a 1/4 of an inch on this hairline, what you might not see in the video is that I'm actually bending my knees down to get eye level with the client's hairline. And I'm also, quickly right there, I'm gonna give you a tip for making a crispy hairline when the hair is laid down. If there is a lot of hair, it might be difficult for you to cut it straight because the hair might be moving. So what I did is I actually took one of my business cards and I just protected the back of the hair, and I just sprayed the fringe with some firm hold hairspray. And what that's gonna do, it's gonna give it this crispy texture so that when I go back in and detail it again, it's actually gonna be a lot more straight. And notice, you can see the effect of how well that really worked. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm actually gonna style the hair, because for me, what I wanna do before I fade it is I really wanna see how the hair looks, so I can make sure that the sides complement the top. I'm gonna be cutting the sides at a square angle, so I wanna make sure that I do not go round above the parietal ridge. I wanna go at a 90-degree angle and also make sure that it's not too triangular either, or else I'm just changing up what I said I was gonna do in this haircut. So I'm gonna take a number 3 and clean up my canvas all the way up to the weight line. And remember, the weight line is where my knuckles or where my fingers were mounted when I was doing those diagonal forward sections, okay? Now the number 3, going the clippers into that scissor work, is still a little too bulky for me. So what I'm doing now is just simple scissor over comb. And what this is gonna do is just soften up that area without pushing it up too high. Instead of it looking like a square brick block, it's gonna be a softer square shape, okay? And for this fade, I'm gonna do a mid-high fade. I'm not gonna make it too high on the skin, but it is gonna be, I'd say, between middle and between high. So I call it mid-high. We are gonna do a drop fade just to complement the client's head shape. And I'm going in with my number 1 and then my number 0. And I'm making sure that my guidelines are parallel to the weight line that I created on the number 3 when I was cleaning my canvas. And if you saw my video last time, I told you how important it was to keep this visual aspect in terms of it being parallel, because it's just gonna make everything look a lot more consistent. And as I finish completing these guidelines, I'm just taking my liner and then getting in there with my shaver. So my shaver, I wanna say, if you guys haven't worked with a shaver, I recommend at some point you definitely push yourself to try it, because this is gonna give you a clear idea of how short length can actually look on someone's hair. If somebody wants to go as short as possible, the shaver is the shortest method to use. I went down with the grain just below that guideline, not creating a new line, very soft, just using the weight of the shaver, and then going against the grain under that to make sure that I go all the way down to the skin, okay? So now I'm just gonna be taking out my first guideline, which was the lowest guideline, pardon me, which is the number 1 guideline, or sorry, the 0 guideline. And what I'm doing is I'm just opening up my clipper, and between the 0 and the 1, I'm going halfway up with my 0.5 or my no guard open. And again, when I'm doing these steps, I'm not exactly getting too detailed with it yet. I'm just making sure that I go through all the fundamental steps, and then I will visually take a look and make any adjustments that I need to in order to blend this out to give it that butter soft look. Or if I want to keep contrast in some areas, I can adjust my technique in order to do so. So between the number 1 and the 3 now, I've knocked out the 0 line. I'm just taking my 1.5 guard closed, and I'm lightly pushing it up into the area where I went to number 3. And I'm flicking out just enough for it to blend on its own, so that I don't have to get into this such a small space with a number 2 open and a number 2 closed. I'm gonna go straight into my 1.5 guard. And as I do that, notice that this is already starting to blend. But now I really wanna make sure that I'm keeping an eye on certain aspects of the head, like the dips here. Now my client, I've been cutting his hair for a long time. I'm very aware that he has a very difficult dip area here. So I'm gonna do my best to show you guys what kind of techniques I like to use in order to make sure that these dips don't look like they actually exist, and try to have that consistency in the blend. So all I'm doing is I'm taking my 0.5 guard and I'm really working all of these details here. I am not going to be mounting to the scalp at all times. Sometimes I'm lightly freehanding and just grazing the tips of the hair just so that I can cut it in certain areas, just enough for it to be cut, and then I'm taking a step back actually and making sure that it's having the effect that I want it to. If not, I'm actually going to take the guard off, which I do here in my detail work, and I'm just going to start working in with an open guard all the way to a closed guard, using all parts of the clipper and certain parts of the clipper. So sometimes I might be using just the corner, like right now. And what that's gonna do is just gonna allow me to attack certain spots, okay? Because keep in mind, your canvas is not perfectly flat. So you're gonna have to use different techniques when you're detailing, just to make sure that every spot, it looks the way that you want it to look before you move on. I'm gonna make sure that I show you guys this whole side here, and you can tell how much time I spend detailing. I spend just as much time detailing as I do fading. So that's really, I think, a good note to take, as you can expect that detailing takes time. So if you want to take your haircut and elevate it, you want to make sure that you get really good at your fundamental aspect of fading, just so that during the visual aspect, we can really take the time and not rush, and we don't want to create any new guidelines or anything like that. We don't want to push the fade up too high. All we want to do is make sure that we get as detailed as possible and creating that consistency. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and repeat this to the side and to the back. The steps are all gonna be exactly the same, but in the meantime, I just wanted to say, I hope you guys are enjoying this channel. I'm definitely enjoying doing these videos for you. I'm gonna be doing a lot more tutorials, and I apologize if you guys haven't noticed already, my voice sounds a little bit different. I actually have been sick for the past 5 days. I've been in bed with strep throat, and I think for me it was I was actually really disappointed in myself, because I like to think that I like to stay healthy, especially in this career, guys. You're not going to be able to make money cutting other people's hair if you're sick. And also with what's going on in the world, there's a lot of sickness, a lot of illness going around, coronavirus and all these things. Make sure you guys stay healthy and wash your hands. But anyways, here's my final product. I hope you guys like it. Next week, I'm gonna be taking you on another tutorial. I'm gonna do some waves for you. So we're gonna do a wave check next week, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for tuning in.